Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome to my channel. It's time for a sheet load. It's the second of the month, and that's when the sheet load team gets together and shares our inspiration for you guys. I hope you'll follow the playlist down below and see what we're making. I'm using a wave of Tangles today. That's the stamp set from Include a Thank You, and I'm using this Gilded Rose paper pad from my shop. I'm combining the two, and I have to say this is one of my favorite sheet loads in a while. I just really love the whole process, and today I'm going to be talking about how to stamp and color multiples when you're mass making. Just some strategies. Now, I cut my widest main strip down to 3x6 today, but I'm actually using two different papers. I wanted to see how they perform. So I'm using my accent opaque, and then I'm also using a watercolor paper, and all the strips are cut down to 3x6. And this is for my stamping and watercoloring. Both the papers did beautiful, and I cut them like this so that if you're using 6x6 paper but you want to make 5x7 cards, you can get the most from them. Now I'm also using these cut aparts of roses from the Gilded Roses, and I was showing you there that they're not all exactly the same size. And I'm using this, I believe this is Tattered Rose from Tim Holtz, and I'm using that with this Simon Says stamp. This is a really old stamp that's a grid background stamp, and it is a 6x6. And as a 5x7 card maker, these background stamps are a bit frustrating, but I have so many of them that I do try to use them in my card making. So I just had to move it in my tool, and it wasn't perfect, but it worked just fine for the cards that I'm making today. I also marked a grid on the mat for this stamp so that I know exactly where I wanted to stamp it. And I stamped this out, and I am going to be coloring up this image and sharing with you some tips and tricks. So the Sheetload of Cards is a card sketch that's absolutely free, and you can get it by following the links in the description box down below. Hop on the playlist and you can watch all the videos, and it's just so much fun. Okay, so my first tip is before you, this is what I do anyways, before I start making a whole bunch of cards that are going to be more time consuming, which when you're stamping and coloring, it's just more time consuming than using patterned paper, I like to make a prototype. So I make one card all the way through to make sure that the concept that I have in mind is going to play out the way that I want it to. So today I'm using these Distress watercolor pencils, and I am using those to color all of my images. They're a product that I really wanted because they coordinate and match with the inks that I use the most. And so I stamped in the, I'm going to make sure I've got the right color here, the Tattered Rose, that grid, and then I ended up coloring, and I started with the Tattered Rose, and then it wasn't quite dark enough for me, so I actually used the Kitsch Flamingo instead. And this is why this part is important, that you do your prototype first, because it's more time consuming to keep coloring the same petals on this over and over again. But if I make a prototype and figure out exactly which colors I'm going to use, and I put the whole card together, then I can decide, is this the direction that I want to go, before I stamp out 8 of these and color them all up and then realize, oh goodness, this is not where I wanted to go. And so that's why first I would recommend doing a prototype. Once you know that you've got what you like, Then I would say these are the next steps. So next steps being, okay, I have my colors already selected. And at this point, I actually was enjoying the silence around me. And I've been trying to embrace silence more lately. And so I just turned off all noise and just kind of lost myself in this Zentangle that Desiree of her stamp set. So Desiree at Include a Thank You, this is her stamp, and she designs some of the most unique stamps, and I wish I could tangle the way that she does. But at least by having her stamps, it's, I, especially by coloring them like this, I get to feel like I can tangle, and I get the Zen part of tangling. And so I really just thoroughly enjoyed the process of embracing the coloring session and the tangling. But what I would recommend and what I did was first I colored all of the brown branches of this tangle. Then I went in and on all 8 pieces, I colored in the petals. At least that's how I'm choosing to see them for these cards, which is what's so fun, again, about Desiree's stamps, is that every time I've used this stamp in the past, I've seen it more as a wave and incorporated it with sea life and different things. I can see it as coral and so many cool things. It's beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and you could have these stamps work for anything, really. They're extremely versatile in that way. But when you're coloring and when you're mass coloring, color all your brown branches at once, color all of your petals at once. And then when you watercolor, do the same thing. Don't watercolor all the pink and then all the brown on the one panel and move to the next. Do all the brown on all 8 panels, then do all the pink on all 8 panels. Now, another thing that I did is I actually colored these in purple and blue as well. And that's the beauty of stamps, is they can be any color. I brought in this Unity Stamp Co. Distressed Tickets die. I just absolutely love it, and I have not gotten to use it yet. So I'm really excited to bring this in and incorporate this into my design. I am just grabbing a scrap piece of paper here, and I am going to use the color tea dye of my Distress Oxide from Tim Holtz, and I am going to very roughly ink up all of these distress tickets for my cards today. So I'm using the tea dye here to get an overall color. And then I wanted to use sentiments from Desiree's stamp, so her stamp set. So I love the sentiments that she includes. I love the size of the stamps because they are just so beautiful for all sizes of cards. And I had these scraps of reflective mirror in my cardstock. And I am going to use those as well, and I'll show you how in a minute. But in the meantime, I made I used 2 different sentiments, Happy Everything, and then there was another one in this stamp set that said Just a Note. And now I'm using Vintage Photo. Desiree would be so proud of me. And I am just kissing the edges of these tickets with the ink. I don't want it to be too overpowering. I don't want it to be too much, but I do want that contrast because it's really going to help it pop off of the card. So everything that you see me doing to create this sheet load, I'm taking in steps, and it makes the whole process so much more efficient. Okay, so let's put one of these cards together, and then I'll show you all the finished cards. I actually made 9. I couldn't help myself. I made an extra one today. So I am gluing that tangled panel down. This is the one that's 3x6, and the matting layer is actually 3.5 by 6.5. And then this little piece is small. It's smaller than the focal point. But if you offset it the way I'm going to do here on a side and the bottom, or a side and the top, I think it works as effectively as matting all four sides, and it just takes less paper. I was able to use my scraps, and it just adds a little more interest, and I like how it separates it from the tangled image. And then I really thought the ticket kind of balanced everything out and brought the whole card together. And so the only thing I think my cards are missing today is embellishments like pearls or gems, but that's okay. I can always add those later. So here's a purple version, and I liked having some that were just a note, because then I can put like thoughts and prayers, thinking of you, whatever. And there are blue and purple, and that's what's so great about using stamps, is you can coordinate them with your papers and have any color you want. And then I've got lots of happy everythings. I hope you enjoyed this sheet load. I hope you're inspired. Please follow the playlist. Go grab you a sheet load, share using the hashtags, and enjoy your card making process. I sure had a blast. And there's a link right here to the playlist. See you later. Bye.